OpenSea, the world's largest NFT exchange, fell victim to a phishing attack that resulted in $1.7 million in stolen digital assets. The NFT marketplace said that 17 users had their token from the Bored Ape Yacht Club, Azuki, Doodle, and CloneX stolen and then resold. OpenSea's CEO said the attack had not originated from the website. Rather, the hacker appears to have exploited a contract signing feature that it used when visitors buy and sell NFTs. Here to discuss is Paul Powers, founder and CEO of Fizna. Paul, glad to have you on this morning. Can you just break down what happened here and how the company or how this compares to other phishing attacks?
Absolutely. So basically what happened was users were unknowingly lured into the modern equivalent of signing a blank check. So what they did was they clicked on a malicious link to sign a smart contract that gave permission for all their NFTs to be transferred to another wallet. And what they signed was actually a partial contract. So large portions were left blank, and the hacker filled those portions in after they signed it. So the hacker used those signatures to drain over 250 NFTs on Saturday. And what's not, as you pointed out, this isn't really a hack of OpenSea, but rather a phishing attack, meaning that it's type of social engineering. So the hacker is trying to trick a person to do something. Usually the hacker does that by way of a fraudulent message to trick someone into doing what the attacker wants them to do.
Given the sophistication, scale, and speed of this hack, is there any concern that this style of attack can happen again to other marketplaces or on-chain platforms?
Unfortunately, yes. As I mentioned, based on the information that we have so far, there's no indication that this is from OpenSea. It's purely a phishing attack. And I think the risks involved with NFT theft are a lot more serious than people mostly realize. Right now, the average person, when they think of NFT, thinks of a fairly basic looking form of digital art. And it's really not hard to imagine NFTs and similar forms of digital records becoming an increasingly common way to monetize other assets in the coming years. In fact, we're already witnessing a rapid rise of NFTs in the form of 3D models, and those 3D models can be bought and sold for fairly practical uses. In the metaverse, you can use them as assets that you buy and sell just like in the real world. But you could also license out those 3D models to be manufactured and copied essentially in the real physical world. And as I mentioned in the past, with the massive growth of 3D models out there, where we have entire search engines dedicated to 3D searches like Fangs, for example, we're headed into a hybrid world where physical and digital ownership start to merge. So these models start to become immeasurably valuable. And so in summary, it's possible that in the near future, the theft of NFTs will have consequences that not only affect individuals' financial assets, but also pragmatically impact their quality of life and perhaps even the manufacturing and availability of certain goods. So there is absolutely a lot to be concerned about here.
I think a person familiar with the digital wallet signature process may perhaps notice some of the irregularities here, but especially for those new to this space, and we've seen kind of so much momentum around this space, what does this hack signal about, self-custody risks of Web3 platforms?
So a lot of the tips that apply to self-custody, taking care of yourself with common sense apply here as well. But there are a couple things that are unique to blockchain platforms that you should keep in mind, especially. So, for instance, you need to be extremely careful with suspicious contracts and not blindly sign things. Of course, you should never do that. But what I think a lot of people don't realize is that when it comes to NFTs, just one signature could result in the loss of every single NFT that you have in your wallet. And you should be especially wary of emails, regardless of who they say they're from, that are demanding transactions. Don't click on that email. Don't click on any link in that email unless you are completely confident they're from an official source. In general, it's better to be proactive versus reactive, especially in the crypto space when it comes to communications.
How can people, using on-chain platforms like OpenSea or Aave protect themselves from hacks?
So a lot of it is common sense, but I think a better word would be education, right? So a few tips would be, one, if you see something, a message that makes you feel rushed to sign something or share information very quickly, that's a red flag. That might very well be a hack. If you're not expecting an email or a text, it might be best to ignore it. Don't click on links from people you don't know. And even if a message appears to be from someone you do know or from the platform itself, you might want to contact them via other means just to confirm that it really is from them if you have any reason for suspicion whatsoever. And while it looks like this specific phishing attack is no longer active, definitely don't assume that you're safe, because this kind of attack is by no means hard to replicate, and very often these things come in waves. So the last thing I would say is, if you think that you've become a victim, that you've been a victim of a phishing attack on your NFTs, you should act immediately in case you're right. There are several things you can do, but a simple example might be to transfer, to make a new wallet and transfer your assets from the wallet that might have been compromised to the new one.
Earlier this month, of course, the Ethereum Solana bridge platform Wormhole reported a hack resulting in about $320 million, essentially in lost crypto at this point. While the platform, certainly was able to kind of replenish those stolen funds, how does these hacks impact the way that people look at security on these platforms, and what can be done in the future to prevent these kind of attacks?
So, if it continues to be widespread, if we see a lot more of this, then it could prevent people from using crypto platforms. But that would be largely a shame, because it really shouldn't. If you're educated and careful, then at least these social engineering type attacks, the phishing attacks, are things that you can mostly prevent on your own. You're about as secure as you decide to be. When it comes to what platforms can do to protect themselves, like code auditing, et cetera, there's a number of tools that they can use to help prevent those attacks. But in the case of phishing or any form of social engineering, it's really more about awareness than anything else. There's only so much that a platform can do to keep your data safe. If someone's potentially tricking you into giving them data they need to access your account, or even sign a contract to transfer your NFTs, there's only so much they can do to really prevent that.
I really appreciate your insight here. Paul Powers, founder and CEO of Phishing.